Now, children, continuing with atomic structure, we'll come to the limitations of the Bohr's atomic model. We have already completed the Bohr's atomic model. So, we will see what are the limitations of the Bohr's atomic model. I have told you one or two limitations while teaching you. Let me just tell you once again, what are the limitations of the Bohr's atomic model. So, first of all, Bohr was inability to explain the line spectrum of multi-electron atom. Because you know that Bohr's atomic model was based upon hydrogen or hydrogen-like species. So hydrogen-like species is either He plus ion or Li2 plus ion. Hydrogen or hydrogen-like species. Niels Bohr's atomic model was based upon this. It was not based upon multi-electron atom. Multi-electron means like if you take instead of lithium, if you take magnesium, what is going to happen? If you take sodium, what is going to happen? If you take what you can say fluorine gas, what is going to happen? If you take oxygen, what is going to happen? Instead of hydrogen gas, if you take oxygen or fluorine or chlorine, what is going to happen? So Niels Bohr's atomic model was not based upon what you can say multi-electron atoms. It was based upon hydrogen or hydrogen-like species. That means it was based upon single electron atom. If you take He plus means how many electrons? One only. If you say Li2 plus, how many electrons it is? One only. So it was based upon single electron atom. It was not based upon multi-electron atom. That is the first most important thing. Got it? And later on, when further, that is when the science progressed, always I say you that whenever the science progressed, we got a good spectroscope having high resolving power. It was being taken and it was being observed, the different series, that is the Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Pfund, all the series which was being observed, which was given by Niels Bohr from the hydrogen spectrum. If you remember it, this is called as hydrogen spectrum. Alright, we took the hydrogen gas and we came to know about this hydrogen spectrum, that is Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, Brackett, Pfund. These are the hydrogen spectrum, we can say that, which was said by, which was known to us. So, if you take, what I was saying is that if you take a spectroscope of high resolving power, if you take a spectroscope, you will find it out, listen carefully, you will find it out that there are finer spectral lines are there. That is, in Lyman and Balmer or Paschen, Brackett, Pfund, in series it was found that not only these series are present, but along with it, finer, what you can say, lines are also being, finer spectral lines. Means I should say the spectral series Lyman can be further subdivided into finer spectral lines. It was being seen. How it was being seen? When the science progressed, we got a spectroscope of high resolving power, then we came to know much more about it. So we cannot say that Niels Bohr was not knowing. I said that whenever the science progress, science is nothing but it is just what we do in a day-to-day life. Always I say that, isn't it? Clear? So definitely the science progresses every day. It progresses. So hence we came to know much more about it. Fine. This is one of the drawbacks of the Niels Bohr's atomic model, that he could not say anything about the multi-electron atoms. Now next is he failed to explain what you can say that if an atom is placed in a magnetic field or if an atom is placed in an electric field, how it will behave. He failed to explain this, that if you place an atom, now atom is electromagnetic, what you can say, particle, you know that, isn't it? We have already discussed that an atom consists of electrons, and electron is of dual nature. It is both particle nature as well as wave nature. What wave? Electromagnetic waves, we have seen it. So, if you place an atom in an electric field or a magnetic field, definitely it is going to show some response. So, he failed to explain this. It was explained by Zeeman and Stark. What I said? Zeeman. Zeeman said that if you place an atom, alright, or if you place a source producing the electromagnetic waves in magnetic field, it splits up into finer spectral lines. Listen carefully. Zeeman said that if you place an atom or any source which produces this spectral series, alright, if you place it in a magnetic field, it will split up into finer spectral lines. It will split up further. Later on you will study that in the quantum atomic model, when we will be studying after this. Alright, in the quantum mechanics, this one, the Zeeman effect will be used. You will be studying it. How it will be used, I will say you there. Next, it was said by Stark, another scientist, Stark said us that if you place an atom or the source producing the electromagnetic waves, if you place it in an electric field, it also splits up into finer spectral lines. So if you place an atom in a magnetic field, if you place an atom in an electric field, it's said by Zeeman and Stark, it splits up into finer spectral lines. We have got the spectral lines already, I said you just now to you. It splits up into finer, still means spectral lines can be still further subdivided into finer spectral lines, so to say. It splits up, got it? Which was said by Zeeman and Stark, which was not said anything by, that is your Niels Bohr. He was not able to tell about it. Now, according to Niels Bohr, if you have seen his atom, if you have seen the postulates of the Niels Bohr's atomic model, he said that electrons is moving around the nucleus in a circular path. That means, according to Niels Bohr, an atom is a flat model. Flat, two-dimensional. Circular means two-dimensional, na? When I say circular, it means two-dimensional. Is an atom a flat model? No. Atom is three-dimensional in nature. It is not a flat model. It is not a two-dimensional. It is three-dimensional in nature. So, Niels Bohr suggested that atom is two-dimensional because he said electron is moving in a circular path. He should have said that electron is moving in a spherical path. Three-dimensional. When we say spherical, means it is a sphere. Sphere means it is three-dimensional. So that was the what you can say drawbacks of the Niels Bohr's atomic model. He considered an atom to be two-dimensional, but it is not so. Next is, he could not say the shape of the molecules. Now when we are seeing the shape of the different molecules, like water molecules is V-shaped, you will be studying in chemical bonding. Carbon dioxide is linear in nature. Methane is tetrahedral in nature. So each and every molecule, covalent molecule I mean to say, ionic, not ionic. So covalent molecule, you will find it out, they have got definite shapes because they have got a definite bond angle. They have got a definite geometry. Geometry means shapes, we can say that. Now this particular concept was not said, what you can say, not explained properly by Niels Bohr. Not properly what I said, he did not say anything about the shape of the molecules. That how a particular molecules assumes a definite shape. So he could not say anything about the shape of the molecules which we know it today. He could not say anything about it. Next is, he could not, that is, explain the de Broglie's concept and the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. He could not say, which is our next course of study, I should say that. What I said, de Broglie's concept and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. De Broglie said about the dual nature of matter. He gave us a formula. Einstein, for the first time, he predicted that electron is of dual nature, both particle nature and wave nature. He predicted, but he could not give us a mathematical relationship behind it. But de Broglie, for the first time, not only he predicted, but also he gave us a mathematical relationship. And later on you will study, he corrected also some of the, what you can say, work done by Niels Bohr in this way. Alright, so Niels Bohr could not explain the de Broglie's concept of dual nature of matter, and he also could not explain the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Alright, so these was the drawbacks of the Niels Bohr's atomic model. The most important is that he predicted an atom to be as two-dimensional, which was wrong. He could not say anything about the multi-electron species, as I said he could not say anything because his work was based upon single electron species, we can say that. And he could not say anything about when an atom is placed in a magnetic or electric field, how it is going to behave. These are the major drawbacks of the Niels Bohr's atomic model. Now next, after that I am going to come to one other that is very important term which you will see that is be used in numericals, a very important term. So that term is known as ionization energy. Ionization energy, we can say that, denoted by the letter IE, ionization energy. Now what is ionization energy? From the name itself you can see ionization, that means it is getting ionized. How it is getting ionized? What is getting ionized? An atom is getting ionized. So what is ionization energy? Ionization energy is energy required, alright, energy required by an atom, alright, to remove completely an electron, from the atom to convert it into a positive ion, alright. Or I can say ionization energy is energy required to remove completely an electron from an atom to convert it into its positive ion, that is cation. Simple. Means a neutral atom is there, you will provide energy to it because Niels Bohr has suggested. that an electron continues to move in its path with the same amount of energy. Whatever the energy is present in that particular path. Path means you understand. There is nothing but a shell or orbit. Alright, shell, SHELL, not CLL, SHELL. That Niels Bohr already has suggested in the postulates of the Niels Bohr's atomic model. We have seen it, and it's absolutely correct that an electron continues to move in its path, alright, till an infinite time. Alright, if you don't provide an energy to it, neither it gains an energy from outside or nor it loses an energy by itself. It will continue to move in its path, and it will continue to have the same amount of energy what the path is having. Alright, it was clearly said by Niels Bohr. We can say that. We have already read it about it. So based upon that fact, what you find is that when you provide an energy to an atom, what will happen? For example, hydrogen atom. I am providing energy. What will happen? Hydrogen atom is going to lose electron completely from an atom, and it will get converted into its ion. Alright, from atom it gets converted into an ion, that is cation. What is this energy known as? Ionization energy. Rather, I should say, in other words, ionization energy is the energy absorbed by an electron in the ground state. Listen carefully. Energy absorbed by an electron in the ground state to reach to the, what you can say, infinite level. What you can say, ground state means n is equal to how much? 1. To reach to the infinite level, n is equal to infinite. Generally, outermost shell, we consider that that is nothing but to be the infinite level. The outermost shell, we consider that. Where the energy is considered to be as what? Nothing but 0. En, that is E infinity. Rather, I should say, let me write correctly. E infinity is nothing but considered to be as 0. We consider it. I am telling you repeatedly, we consider it. Got it? Hypothetically, abruptly, we consider it. Alright? So what I said, ionization energy, in other words, it's nothing but the energy absorbed by an electron in the ground state. Ground state, this is a ground state, n is equal to 1, the first level. To reach to the, what you can say, the infinite state. That is the outermost shell. Electron is gaining energy and it is reaching to the outermost shell. It is jumping from the innermost shell to the outermost shell. Use the word jumping, not moving. Electron does not move, it jumps from one level to another level. Because it absorbs or it, what you can say, evolves, means releases a definite amount of energy, but that is discrete, it is hidden, it is not being, we are not able to know it, that is hidden. Alright, a definite amount of energy. I said you, if you remember it, the word quantized, energy is quantized, it's never fractional, it's always a whole number. I've said it, all these things, remember it. Alright, so in this way, what you find is that when an electron gains energy and it moves and it jumps from the first level to the outermost shell, we can say, which is considered to be as the last shell, infinite, we consider it. So energy of the outermost shell of an electron in the outermost shell is considered to be as what? 0. You know it, everything. So this particular energy is known as what? Ionization energy, that we can say. Got it? So understood what is ionization energy? Very simple words I have explained you. That is nothing but energy gained by an atom to convert into its ion. To remove an electron completely from an atom, or energy gained by an electron in the ground state to reach to the outermost shell. So the amount of energy which is gained, that is nothing but known as the ionization energy. And I have said you already, the energy in the outermost shell is considered to be as 0. Now we will see the value for the ionization energy. We will see the value. We will see it. Now what I said you, ionization energy is nothing but, I can say you, that is E infinity minus E1, isn't it? Because it is gaining energy from electron is gaining energy in the ground state and goes to which state? Outermost shell. So infinity minus E1, E infinity what? Just now I studied 0. And E1 already I have studied for hydrogen. Got it? For hydrogen gas. What is E1? Minus, in terms of joules, it will be minus 21.8 into 10 to the power minus 19 joules per atom. Or in terms of what you can say, electron volt, minus 13.6 electron volt per atom. Or in terms of kilojoules, we can write minus 1312 kilojoules per mole. So it depends how the question is given in the what is the unit is given in the question. That it depends. You need to see the unit, and accordingly you are going to put the correct formula. Listen children carefully. According to that you are going to put the correct formula. You need to see what is the unit here, whether it is in joules per atom, whether it is in electron volt per atom, whether it is in kilojoules per mole. Accordingly you are going to use. So whatever it is, ionization energy, what you got it? minus minus plus, so 21.8 into 10 to the power minus 19 joules per atom. For which? For hydrogen gas. Now for hydrogen-like particles means He plus, Li2 plus, what it will be for hydrogen-like particles? Ionization energy will be same formula, E infinity minus E1. Same formula, na? Formula will never change. So E infinity is 0, and instead of E1, what we'll write it as? The value, instead of writing this value, what we'll write it as? Minus 21.8 into 10 to the power minus 19 z square by n square. You know it, I have said you earlier. Z square by n square. But n is what? How much it is? 1. 1, na? So instead of n, I can write it as 1 square. So 1 square is how much? 1. Is it clear? You know this particular formula, I have said you. That for hydrogen-like particles, what it will be? Minus 21.8 in 10 to the power minus 19 z square by n square. Because here the atomic number is changing. You see, for helium it is 2, for lithium it is 3. The atomic number is changing, so definitely it is going to change. You know it, everything. The value of n is always 1. For ionization energy, I am saying that. For ionization energy, I am calculating this. It is 1. So hence, what do we get the formula? We get the formula as, it is joules per atom. Remember it. So we get the formula as 21.8 into 10 to the power minus 19 z square joules per atom. If it is kilojoules per mole, it will be how much? That is nothing but 1312 kilojoules per mole. 1312 into z square kilojoules per mole. Got it? 1312 into z square kilojoules per mole. So in this way, you got the how to calculate the ionization energy. Got it? Now this one, sorry. So this one, this value, I can sum it up into what you can say an easier value. I can sum it up. What is that? You see, I can write it in a different manner also. I can write it out. So what I can do is that IE, that is ionization energy, just now I said you, E infinity minus E0 for hydrogen, E0 I'm saying, sorry, E1 for hydrogen-like particles. I'm talking this, hydrogen-like particles. So what it will be nothing but this is 0 minus of minus. Instead of so writing a value, I can write it as IEH into z square. I can write that. Instead of writing minus 21.8 in 10 to the power minus 19 or minus 1312 or minus 13.6, I can write this. What is this? H stands for hydrogen-like particles. So minus of minus will be plus. So IEH, got it, into z square. So ionization energy, what is that? IEH is, I told you the value, into z means, for suppose for helium, what it is? Value of z will be 2. So 2 square. For lithium, what will be the value? It will be, Z will be 3, so 3 square. So IEH into 3 square. For helium, it will be He plus ion, it will be IEH into 2 square. Did you get it now? The formula. So hence, what he gets, what I said you, for He plus, what it will be? For He plus, it will be IE into, what is that? Z square is 4. For Li 2 plus, what it will be? IE into 9, because that value is 3, so 3 square is 9. In this way you will be getting it. Alright, so sorry, this IEH, I should write it down, IEH, for here I forgot. So this will be IEH, in this way you must write it down, and the value I said you, if it is in joules per atom, it will be, that is nothing but 21.8 in 10 to the power minus 19. If it is in kilojoules per mole, it will be 1312. If it is in electron volt per atom, it is 13.6. Got now? In this way, whatever the unit is given, according to that, you will put it and you will calculate the ionization energy. I hope you understood what is ionization energy. Clear? In this way, we covered up ionization energy. The next part we will come to it. Thank you.